Hello again. In the last video we covered the before start and before taxi checklists and flows, and in this video we'll be covering the takeoff roll. I'm gonna pause the video at each step and we'll discuss it in detail. In this example, the first officer is the pilot flying, so once the captain is ready he'll transfer the controls to the first officer. The first thing I'd like to point out here is for the engine spool up to at or around 40%, you need to verify that the engines have reached that target N1 before pressing toggle buttons. When you spool up, you see these leading indices, and that is not the indication for you that the engine has stabilized. You need to wait for the N1 itself to reach at around 40% for both engines before you press toggle button. So like this, we'll be waiting for it to spool up. Stabilize and then press either toggle buttons. After you press toggle, the pilot flying will announce the FMA changes here and then set takeoff thrust. That is the call by the pilot flying to the pilot monitoring to set the takeoff thrust. The first officer will remove his hand from the throttle, and then the captain will verify that the auto throttle have set the takeoff thrust or set it manually. When the thrust is set, he will announce that thrust is set. So we'll do it now. We'll spool up to 40%. So the engines have stabilized now. Press either toggle buttons. So when you press toggle, as we said, the pilot flying will announce the FMA changes. N1 heading select toggle and set takeoff thrust. And then the pilot monitoring will verify or set the takeoff thrust. So once the thrust is set, the pilot monitoring will announce thrust set. And then the pilot monitoring will be monitoring the airspeed for 80 knots, and then we'll call it 80 knots. The pilot flying should verify his airspeed and respond with the word check if it is matching. So now the pilot monitoring will announce 80 knots, and the pilot flying will say check. As we said before, the FMA changes is a pilot flying responsibility, so once the N1 changes to throttle hold, that needs to be announced by the pilot flying. So throttle hold, then the pilot monitoring will respond check. V1 is going to be a automatic call, and then rotate is a pilot monitoring call. Okay, so rotate and then positive rate called by the pilot monitoring should be out of the altimeter. Once you have a positive rate in the altimeter, then he will call positive rate, and then pilot flying of course will request to gear up. So positive rate, gear up, gear up. The 1000 call, the acceleration height is out of the altimeter and not out of the radio altimeter. So once you have 1000, the pilot flying may request the up speed. and the call is set up speed. We are eliminating the word flaps in the call out in the FCTM to avoid any confusion. So instead of saying set flaps up speed, the call is set up speed. So say that the pilot flying requested the up speed, pilot monitoring will set it. And here this call N1 should have been made by the pilot flying as well. Of course, during this time, the pilot monitoring might contact a departure. So let's assume we have contacted departure and they give us 12,000 with the left turn, direct destination. So 12,000 would be set by the pilot monitoring since the pilot flying is manually flying the airplane. Left turn initiate the clearance with the heading. And then the pilot monitoring should select direct destination, for example, which we were clear to, and then stand by for the execution until the pipeline requests direct. Okay, so continue now. So 1000, set up speed, check, speed set, and we'll announce 12,000, left hand heading, whatever, to destination. So once the green bug for the flaps 1 is at or below our indicated airspeed, then the pilot flying might request the flaps up. So let's say now the pipeline have requested flaps up. Now the pilot monitoring should not perform his after takeoff flow until the flaps have retracted and the leading edge devices have retracted as well and both lights are extinguished. And then he can perform his after takeoff flow. For the pilot flying, you should not request the after takeoff checklist until you get out of the toga mode here. If you are still in toga mode, you should wait until you get out of it by either selecting VNAV, level change, vertical speed, any pitch mode other than toga. And of course, you cannot select, you cannot exit the toga mode unless the flaps have retracted and the lights are extinguished for the leading edge devices. So both pilots now should wait for the flaps to retract and the leading edge devices to extinguish. And now the pilot monitoring may perform his after takeoff flow. So verify that the packs are auto, bleeds are on, engine star switches as required, so off in this case. And then landing gear up and off, and then verify that the flaps are up and no light. Now since we are still in the toga mode, the pilot flying should not request the after takeoff checklist until he is out of the takeoff mode, toga mode. So let's assume that the pilot flying have engaged the autopilot. You'll announce the change here, MCB speed. So now once we are out of the toga, you can request after takeoff checklist. So MCB after takeoff checklist. Check. So the pilot monitoring is going to read and respond to the after takeoff checklist. It's going to be packs, engine bleeds on, packs auto, landing gear up and off, and flaps up and no lights. After takeoff checklist is complete. And then let's assume that the pilot flying have requested direct al-Ahsa. Before pressing the execute by either pilot, you should confirm with the other pilot. So confirmed, execute. And since now the autopilot is engaged, the pilot flying might manipulate the MCP, so we'll engage LNAV and then announce LNAV. Regarding VNAV, since we were flying opposite to our destination, it's a good idea to maintain up speed or 200 or 210 instead of going to VNAV and accelerating while you are going the opposite direction. And to wait to accelerate to VNAV once you are in the general direction of your destination. So for example, now we are going towards our destination. So you'll go with VNAV speed, check. Okay, so that concludes this session for the video about the takeoff roll and the initial climb out. Thank you for watching.